We go and help our best friends in sales sell better and build the reputation as we go through it. Now, I'm your host, Nicholas Thickett, and this is
Jason Stone.
nailed it.
Nailed it this time. I wasn't.
And Jason, you had some interesting things in your soapbox that you wanted to discuss and get the chat involved. What is it that has been on your mind lately? Because I know sales has endless opportunities. So
There's a lot, isn't there? Yeah, we've touched on this and we've talked about it. And I think you and I could go on the rant, but yeah, I can't. So the I had an example of BANT that I was going to share, or I was going to post on Substack, but I didn't think it would be appropriate. It was around, well, I'll tell you later. But the one that, and I just posted an article on it. The one that gets me and is just this acceptance of bad sales math, like, and not trying to diagnose the problem. And an example I would give you is just, somebody settling and resting on the fact that they only sell 10% of the people they talk to. Right. And saying, and then they reverse engineer everything based on that number, but that number is likely wrong. Right. And the first indicator that that number is usually wrong is when you have pipeline quota for AEs. Like, I can tell you that that number is, it will probably be about 6% higher if you looked at everything that was in pipeline. Should it be an opportunity? Is it an opportunity? If your sales cycle's 6 to 8 months, why is this one in there 10 months? That's not an opportunity, right? And it probably should have never been. And the more that you create that cycle, the more you've got less, I should say, the more you have less focus on the real deals. So no telling what you're losing on deals that could have been deals, because I talked to a guy that he's like, my guys are creating 20, is around 20 opportunities a month. And how many deals can they legitimately sell in a month? Right. And he's like, well, we have a 2 to 3 month sales cycle, but they can legitimately really focus on 5 to 6 deals. So why do they have 20? And that's their quota. 20, you have to have 20 opportunities, X times their average contract value. And that just, if you reverse engineer it into, now, in order to get to that number, we've got to do these things in outreach. That's what breaks the system.
But the thing that's always interesting is that's where the numbers start and stop.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is my quota. Divide out what is your ACV. And you're like, oh, I need to hit 100 grand. My average sales 5 grand. So I need 20 deals. Okay, well, how many, like, what's my conversion rate between stages? Okay, well, I only closed 10% of my presentations, and I only closed 10%, or we'll use bigger numbers, 50% and 50%. So that's 25% of what initially comes in. So if you need 20, you got to times that by 4. Right. So you have 80.
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that the math is wrong.
But so, like, when I was an SDR, or like played an SDR type role, and I was feeding my AEs, what I used to do is I used to figure out my pipeline math per AE.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I noticed that nobody ever talked about, what was the handoff?
To the AE?
To the AE. And that was the thing that made the biggest impact, is what I noticed is they always wanted me to just book the meeting.
Right.
But because I would just book the meeting, what was the account plan? How are they actually tackling this account? Like, how are they working it? And so, like, what data do they already have? What data do they need? Like, what is the point of, like, are we just booking a meeting with a director based on what?
Yep, based on the fact I need a meeting.
And so this is the part that always made it really difficult, because this will always artificially keep your win rate low.
Yes. It will.
Because the one thing I worked with my AEs is like, at the end of the day, we need a handoff point that one of us needs to do the fact gathering and then the other person needs to use it. And so for me, one of the things, and this pissed off a lot of people, but my definition of opportunity is an appetite for change. A booked meeting doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean a thing.
And so they book meetings like, well, it's pipeline. No, it's not. They've never said there's an appetite for change. You don't know what their timelines are. Like, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So how is it going into why is it in pipeline? It's a lead. And I think this is the biggest thing I see with most revenue engines is they don't actually know the difference between a genuine lead and an opportunity. And I think as SDRs, you need to fight for this one, because if you do this right, A, you hold marketing accountable. You get better alignment with marketing. You know the actual production rates that you need to do to go and keep yourself and your head above water.
Right.
It also opens up those opportunities for learning. Like, that's 4 great reasons to go and do it. But nobody talks about this. All I ever hear about is which, cold calling's dead, email's dead, social selling's dead, LinkedIn's dead. I hate this, I hate that. But we don't actually get into the mechanics of talking about, like, that's like saying, oh, the whole point of a game in football is just to throw the ball. There's other options.
Yeah, there's other plays.
But, those are our activities. Those are our completion rates.
Yeah.
Well, just because they caught the ball doesn't mean it was a touchdown. It also didn't mean they won the game. There's so much more to the game than just that one action. But that's what I keep hearing in sales is the exact same thing, is a very small piece of the puzzle and getting an extraordinary leap in its value. But at the end of the day, you book that meeting. What does your business case look like?
Nobody knows.
It's probably blank.
Yeah.
I bet you there's not even assumptions going into that meeting of what's going on.
I can't speak from our side. Like, when we book a meeting for our team, we do the same handoff for our clients. But I do know on client side, like, there's not preparation. It's, the product will sell itself attitude, right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I wish it did. Like I said, I've always said, I wish that we were the iPhone or Taylor Swift. We just announce our next concert or product and people would line up, but that's not the case. But it's interesting. That's one of the things that, and I think I told you this a while back, that we started doing was giving them intel on the meetings that we were booking, why the timing is right. I mean, perfect example, we're working with a client that they are in regional bank AI efficiency and risk, right? And it's like the CEO of this one bank made a statement at their shareholders meeting that is their number one initiative for the second half and beyond of 2026. That is good to know. But had we not shared that information and uncovered it, the rep probably would have just shown up and said, "Here, let me show you the platform, how cool it is.
Look at these features and benefits."
Yeah. And that goes back to, us, you and I talking about the first call being a diagnostic. It has to be.
So I want to give you one scenario that has been coming up in my practice a fair bit. And I think it's a great question. And I've started to use it more with directors. So what if there is no discovery and you're using a tool to go and do live demos, but asynchronously? Or you're sending videos that are doing have most popular demos based on case studies, based on lookalike audiences. So you're sending, so there is no meeting.
It's just all virtual.
Yeah. So what's an opportunity now?
Hand raiser. Right.
So we're going back to a lead.
Yeah.
Unless we're doing strong inbound. But see, these are the issues that I see. I don't know if it's because people are too busy, they don't actually think about the mechanics of sales, or people don't understand buyer mechanics. Like buyer enablement is the hardest thing right now.
Yes.
So you like I was just reading something that they just announced that the average B2B sale in 2026 is 222 days. With
That's
something
insane.
like 17 stakeholders.
That's
That
insane.
number, I hear so many different things between 17 and 25. So I don't know which one's the actual number. I know that for me, if I don't have at least 3 champions with authority,
Yeah.
it's just the deals. It's not safe. Like it can churn really easily.
Yeah. I mean, we could even churn like we could still with one stakeholder, we can usually move forward, but we'll churn faster after execution, right? Which goes back to that's what we try to avoid because of CAC. Because it cost us money to get someone ramped up and to get people, in market. But yeah, we like to have 2 to 3. But like that's what people don't think of. Even if you execute a deal and you have one, the churn post that is still, I mean, I would guarantee you it would be high because then they have to fight everybody. They have no allies in the process. So, and again, one of the things that I've seen when you talk about sales mechanics or buyer mechanics, it's like I think it's a combination of the two,
It's a whole 100%.
right? It's not,
But
yeah, it's
you
not one
can't.
thing.
But what I see all too often is that a sales process is designed for optimizing sales, not actually selling,
Yeah,
tracking sales.
right.
And
Yeah,
so it's like, if you look at the average like stages today, they're not built on how people buy. Because every company that I've ever worked with, when we reverse engineer going from closed one and working our way back towards initial outreach, there's milestones per stage that need to happen that just increase our win rate. But once you know that, then you can lead with curiosity, and all you're trying to do is go and find out if something's true or false. You lead with assumptions, and it makes the process so much easier because you're like, is this true? And like I've had it too where I've tried that, and it turns out that my my data gathering was not true and outdated. I just literally had this yesterday. I sent out an email and I had done some fact gathering, but I couldn't verify it any other way than talking to someone. Unfortunately, I was in talking to C-suite, and I wish I would have verified with somebody more junior so I didn't look silly, but luckily the person was a friend and gave me some grace. So
I it's yeah, there is data out there that I mean that's the great thing. I've always said this. The great thing about data is it's available. The bad thing about it is it starts 30% inaccurate and gets worse every day. So you do have to verify. And if there's no other way to verify than speaking, then you have to frame it as a question, right? Out of curiosity. And the thing that we talk about trust, we talk about curiosity, but the other thing that I always talk about to salespeople is you've got to be vulnerable. You have to be. You can't be. And we said this last time. You can't be the smartest person in the room, right? And I think one of our viewers said, if you are, you're in the wrong room, and that's so true. Like that's part of being curious is not knowing everything, and so but people are afraid to look and feel vulnerable. And that's
yeah.
understandable. I get that. But, there's if you try it, the response and the feedback you get is significantly valuable.
But I think that that's the exact thing I don't see is that the feedback, nothing's actually incorporated. Like it's very much I just find it so fascinating when I start working with teams and I start talking to individuals. You wouldn't believe how many teams don't talk.
Oh, yeah, no, I would believe it was extremely low if you said it was. I don't know what the number is, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was less than 25% of the teams didn't talk.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's significantly lower than that, like
Yeah,
closer to 5%.
yeah,
It's just interesting because when I started, I was in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And you would hear the top, like we'd all listen to the top reps to go and understand how do they structure their calls? How do they structure their intros? What were they listening for? How did they explain different things? How did they walk through the process? And same with deal reviews. Like, why did they win the deal? How did they lose a deal they thought they were going to win? What actually happened? And this is the stuff I just don't see. It's part of the reason I love doing this show is I hope that we get more people getting in the comments and talking to us about what's actually going on. Because that's just not happening right now in sales. All too often, people are stuck in this feedback loop of just themselves if they're tracking the right data.
Yeah.
And so they look in the CRM, they're like, oh shit, this is a problem. And so they start reading or they start going on YouTube or that's how they're diagnosing. But they don't talk to other people, so they don't actually know what's working. And I think of one of my biggest breakthroughs when I was a junior in my career was talking to CS and going, holy shit, I'm selling the wrong thing. Everything that product and marketing were telling me didn't actually line up to what people were initially buying and why.
Right. And where they became long-term clients.
And so it was really fascinating. CS was like, stop fucking selling this. I'm tired of your service tickets trying to make it work. Do not sell this again. And I'm like, well, what would I sell anyways? And who would I talk to? And I didn't think he was going to have an answer for me. And he's like, actually, go and sell this policy, focus on this, and only focus on these types of people. If you do, it's a very easy yes, but it gets them thinking about the right things. So you can go back and service them. This was in insurance sales.
Yeah.
You can go back and service them, and it'll do a lot better. Well, I can tell you it ended up being over 5 times the LTV of the other way around.
Yeah, going in high.
And all my sales cycles were less than 30 days. So it's like, what are you optimizing for? When people say, well, I'm just trying to get better. Better at what? And it goes back to your initial question. If you're just trying to go in, if your opportunity is you're like, well, I need to make 1,000 calls, so I'm just going to make 1,000 calls plus. You're choosing to work harder because you don't want to solve the other things.
Right.
It's a choice.
The needle in the haystack.
And don't get me wrong, I understand all too well of talking to people about how their management and leadership is looking after activity metrics. I get that.
Yeah.
I've had to go and deal with companies putting their top reps on PIP because of activity metrics, which just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Makes no sense.
But you guys got to own your numbers. You got to understand what the numbers represent, and you also need to understand what's within your control. And if you do, and you know what you're good at, like for me, the reason I did well wasn't because I was a closer. The reason I did well is I did more research than most. And when I started talking to people, I did my fact gathering, and I started with momentum. And I started with so much momentum that it afforded me the ability to screw up, and the momentum would carry it forward.
Right.
That was what did well for me. I know a lot of other people that once they got into a discovery call, they were incredible at getting to the truth and doing it in a respectful way that won them deals. That was their superpower. But this is the other thing the numbers will tell you if you dig into them, but most people don't look. You got to find your superpower. And that plays into who to talk to and when. So like for me right now, one of the easiest ways for me to go and talk to people is I find if people have powerlifting in their profile or beer, craft beer in particular, because I brew beer. Like they're just such easy conversations because we can nerd out on it forever because they're just not things that most people do. But those are things I learned by looking at my numbers, and it's like, well, why the hell did this one break in? So like, why did I break into this account so easy? Normally it takes me 6 people. This one took me 1. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I don't brew beer, but I do drink it. So,
market research is important, my friend. Market
yes.
research is important.
Yeah.
If anything you guys are learning today, you got to do your market research. And if you brew beer, it's for good purposes, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, and again, you can go read that article. I could send it to you that I wrote, but it's like, I mean, this team, when you looked at it from the outside looking in, they were cruising. I mean, they were, $25 million in pipeline a month, $1 million ACV, but they were missing a $30 million net new revenue number. So do the math, right? That's $300 million a year that they were producing in opportunities, and they're selling 8% because they were 6 million short. It's like, and then when we went in and looked at it, we took they had a target of 100. They were booking about 80% on average. So some months higher, some months lower, right? But we reduced it down to by 60%. And the show rate at the 80% was 48%. So over half their meetings weren't even showing. So what does that tell you right there? Like, right, you're booking with the wrong people. People are just saying yes to get you off the phone. There's a number of reasons, but when we lowered it and they started talking to the right people, and we looked at the show rate went from 48 to 85%.
Oh,
I mean, it shot up. Your executed meetings were, so they could at 48%, there was 38, but you lower the number of meetings, you increase the show rate. They only lost 9 meetings a month, or 11. I think it went from 38 to 27 executed. But then you have, your conversion from conversation to opportunity was 65%. So 65% of the people they were talking to, they were saying were opportunities, which was not. And it went from 65 to 30, right? Their opportunities went from 25 million a month to between 8 and 11, but their win rate went from 8 to 17. So, and their sales cycle shrunk. So
interesting.
So when you talk about like a mid-year push and there's a 6 to 8 month sales cycle, 75% of what you produce, maybe not that high, maybe 65, 70, but you can't close in that year, right? So it's gonna burn into next year. So how do you capture more in that time frame? Well, you talk to the right people for the right reasons, the right time. So but it was fascinating. And this was a guy that wanted to hire us for a boost. He's like, I just need to get to my net new revenue number. And it's like, well, I mean, here's the thing. We could hire you or we could hire us, but we have to produce at your current numbers. This is what we'd have to do: 115 meetings in the next 6 months to get you to 75, show up. And then you'd have to you'd have to close X of those to get to your number. When you already told me you can't close them, all of them, in the next 6 months. So we'd have to produce about 150 meetings. And in order to do that, we're going to have it's just going to churn the same crap. And even if we were lucky enough to do it, you're going to be back in the same spot next year.
Yeah, because you're just doing the same thing.
Yeah, because you're not trying to figure out how to improve. You're just trying to and
this is also numbers creep up. Like I've seen it too, where I was talking to a company, and right now with their power dialer, they were trying to do about 500 dials a day minimum. But over the last 3 years, that's gone up like quite a bit. I think they're up about 80% over 3 years. So it was like first year was like 10 or 12%, and then it was like another little bit. And overall, it's 80%. But they're like, well, we just got to keep chasing volume. I was like, you're chasing volume because you haven't looked at anything else.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what is the purpose of an SDR?
It's to create. I mean, if you asked me, it's a lot different than just putting somebody on the phone, right? It's to create momentum inside of targeted accounts and create and build the relationship to create awareness and a meeting overall. I mean, to me, right, and I've always used this. I hate the phrase, but it weren't, monkeys on a phone are not the answer. Like, I mean, I think I told you, we did, the market was telling us last year that it was, we want volume. We want volume. And we increased our volume significantly. And our production went down.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the production went down significantly. And so, I mean, it's not the answer.
I think the thing that people need to go and talk about more is there's a threshold. There is a minimum dial, minimum activity level to be successful.
100%.
And part of it is learning. I think that's the thing that nobody actually specifically labels, but you learn when you're, like what's the saying that people get lucky when they, like you keep showing up and eventually you get lucky because you're in the right place at the right time. And that is definitely true in sales because timing is everything. But at the end of the day, if you don't keep showing up at a certain rate, you won't, because you'll never be in the right place at the right time. And then if we start adding on different layers of like, well, how do we get better at timing? Well, that's now we're solving for something different, and that's even more powerful. But this is the type of stuff I just don't hear because they get so caught up in, I have to hit the 1,000 dials. They don't have time to go and do anything other than dial.
Yeah.
And see, it just creates that never-ending feedback loop of just more.
Yeah. I mean, and what has that done? Right? I mean,
burn market like nobody's ever seen it burn before, even at it growing at a rate that they've never seen it before. So it's,
I mean, we're just allowing ourselves to be ignored more often.
And I honestly, I just think sales development is, if you take that word sales development and you think about what that means, is you're getting them ready to buy.
Yeah.
Getting them ready to sell. So how do you prepare people to buy? What do they need to know? These are the types of questions that I notice that top reps do, and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Like, what are non-negotiables that when you start talking, like I've had companies that, okay, simple one, I just heard this story. Company saw a huge dip in sales. They started pushing volume. And as they were going through volume, they started collecting better data. And what they realized is they went to go and process deals, they didn't have all the data they needed. And these are transactional deals, so they have to move fast. Like, you're on it or it's gone. Well, what would happen is because they weren't on it, it would disappear very quickly, and they couldn't go back and go and call for more information because after the fact, it was too late. And so all of a sudden, boom, now they lost these deals because they didn't do it in an efficient manner. As soon as they fixed this process using the CRM, sales went up 2, almost 3 times. But it's these little things that aren't volume that change the buyer experience, that change people's willingness to buy. And because everything happens so quickly, or if you're not earning goodwill, you don't have any room for mistakes. That's why you can't treat like SMB versus mid-market versus enterprise versus strategic all as one movement.
Yeah.
But I see that all the time. Same with segments. They treat all segments the same way too.
Yeah.
But they don't act the same.
No,
they don't talk the same.
Nope. They're not structured the same. They're not, I mean, again, that's where you get to that. I haven't heard 25 in a buying committee. That seems egregious, but that's where you get to that 16, 17 number. And that's a different rhythm, a different approach, a different message than it is to just reach out to, SMB or even mid-market. And you can't just have, it can't be volume. There's just not enough for volume to play into your luck sales cycle. But they are strategically prioritizing and looking at issues. If we know they have those issues, and we just don't know when that it's a priority for them. But what happens, and the old saying, like the saying now is like, well, they come to the table, buyers, with a list. Well, how did they get on that list?
Yes.
Right.
Please tell me why they're on the list.
Yeah. How did they get on that list? And it is the small things. It's the little things that you can tweak. And again, we could have done business with this guy. We could have, it would have been probably $120,000 deal for us, but we would have likely missed the mark because it was reliant on their math, right? And a very extended sales cycle. And I would have had somebody pissed off at us, probably not talk nice about us because
What?
right, yeah, because their math failed them, and failed us. But it was, again, that was the statement I said. Do you ever feel like you've lost something, but you felt like you won? I feel like we won in that conversation, in that instance. And I still talk to the guy. It's been 12 months, and his numbers are staying steady. But it was just looking at what's going on and paying attention to it versus hiding behind it. Like I said a while back, it's volume is not a strategy; it's an alibi. And so
I like that.
But so back to the sales process, kind of mirroring the buyer journey, because I think this is interesting. But so the counter argument would be that sales process exists for a reason: pipeline visibility, forecast accuracy, consistent execution. Right? You can't run a team on vibes. So how do you keep the operational structure without making it feel like you're prospecting or processing buyers?
Question for you?
Yeah.
How many companies have you ever worked with that had criteria by stage?
Several.
Well, that's impressive because most of the companies I talk to have no criteria.
Yeah, but you got to remember, like, as
generic criteria, like what is stage one? Oh, booked meeting.
Yeah, but as a seller, one. As a leader, all of them, because I implemented it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So as a seller, one.
But like if those are the types of things, like, so if I say a booked meeting is stage one, that's what all you have to, the only line you have to cross is book a meeting.
Yeah.
How does that change win rate?
It doesn't.
How does it say that the deal progressed and that they're more ready to buy than before they booked a meeting?
It doesn't. It does change win rate. It lowers it.
But these are the types of conversations that I think we just need to have more often, because that is a vibe. That's all you're doing is vibes. This is why most forecasts are bullshit, partly because people have crazy numbers they have to hit, so they stuff crap into the pipeline just to go and justify and allow them to do good work. But this is just vibes, because every company I've ever worked with that we've set criteria, the thing that also changed very quickly was our pre-qualification criteria changed drastically.
Yep.
Like, yeah, we could sell these people, but if you look at, do they stay and does the implementation go well? Do they renew? No. Okay, well, let's get them out like sooner and do everybody the kind thing of just saying no when it's not a good fit. But this is the type of stuff that gets missed when you just optimize for top number, and that's dials or activities. We just need to do 1,000 because I only closed 10%.
Yeah. So my statement still holds true. I didn't say I didn't say they're not ran on vibes. It's like you can't run it on vibes for very long, right? You can't. So how do you operationalize the structure without making it feel like you're processing buyers? I think that's a question that a lot of people would have, in my opinion, because you're just checking. And the other thing you got to get away from is just that checking boxes, right? And when we gated opportunities, we tried to do it, again, not just a process like, do you have budget? Do you have, go back to BANT, right? And it's like,
you can't sell.
Yeah, you go down a list, and that's not a sales process either. So there's a fine line between building a process to check boxes and gate things to move them to the next level and making it feel operationally sound.
So, question for you.
Yeah.
Company says they want you to come in for a week, Monday through Friday. You're going to be sit in the sales development seat. You're going to go and serve, let's say, 5 AEs. What do you do?
Well, I was terrible at that job, so
Fair.
I would get on Indeed, and no, I'm just kidding. You would. I mean, the first thing, what I've learned now is to prioritize. The first thing I would do is who buys, when do they buy, who blocks, who moves the deal, right? And then, I prioritize the list based on those functions. Like
And
when,
do you prioritize as like one whole? So like, say you get a list of 1,000 accounts.
yeah,
Would you just prioritize and then whatever is left is how you would start doing your activities, or do you break it down from there as well?
yeah, I would break it down into tiers, right? So if I looked at, again, if I could check all of the boxes on 200 accounts, those would be in tier one. That's be who I'm going after the first and foremost, right? There's other, and you can do this in Zoom, you can do it in Sales Navigator. It's the tier two. If there is a trigger that was missing, I would load that up into Zoom as an alert, or Sales Navigator as an alert. And when that trigger switched, they would move up to tier one because they checked another box, right? And if, like, again, it's not, and this is another reason SDR work fails miserably at times, because if I had 1,000 and I just went to call, I'm just going to start calling somewhere, just right there. And then you have no idea where to start and stop. And you have no idea how to prioritize. And again, that's part of the volume problem. When you put, like, I don't have time to do that. If I did that, I would make 50% less calls the first day than I needed to, and I'd already be on the hot seat, right? And quite honestly, your leader should do that for you. But yeah, I mean, that, and then I would go in and find the motion, and it's the pain point of each particular person you're reaching out to. It should not be a generic features and benefits statement,
No.
right? And I'm not a big fan of, I've talked to a lot of CFOs. It's like, no, you haven't. You've been hung up on by a lot of CFOs. So, I'm not a fan of that nomenclature. I like the approach to say, can I tell you something I found out in the regional banking space recently, right? AI is making a serious impact on identifying how you diversify risk. I was wondering if that was something that you guys were focused on. Now you've got that attention. Well, AI is in our, it's definitely on our roadmap. And then you ask questions, right? But if you don't have that statement that there's a pain point, they're experiencing it, whether they want to admit it or not. But I think I said this in one of our episodes, is like, when you find a statement that you can make that's powerful and it resonates because the person on the other end of the phone just hasn't said it out loud yet, right? It's like that. I've had some people, not a lot, but some people that have just, when you say things like that you could just almost feel and go, thank God somebody else has said it. That's exactly what I'm experiencing. I don't know how to solve it. That's the reaction you get, not word for word, but that's the response, right?
How do you know that?
Yeah, right. But there's there's all too often you get the, I know you're busy, but let me tell you why I'm calling. It's like, you've already given them, don't give them the exit already. You've already opened the door for them. And it's like, yeah, I am busy. Click, right? Ask for permission to continue. A lot of people don't want to. Everybody knows it's a cold call, but again, that goes back to,
honestly,
yeah.
If you ask a good question, that is permission.
Yeah.
Agreed. And if they keep going, you have permission to keep going. They will tell you. But if you keep like steamrolling them to just keep talking, because you just keep, there's nothing you're saying that's actually worthwhile, they're not actually contributing and having a real conversation, that's going off on the wrong side. But how rare is that? I don't think most reps actually do that because it's uncomfortable.
It is. It's the uncomfortable truth. I mean, the truth is always uncomfortable.
And I think
Right.
the other thing I wish reps would do is look at like what you had said. There's the segment or like the market, and then there's that account, and then there's the individuals. There's 3 different layers of personalization.
Yeah.
First, you need to get a line on the patterns that over problems, right? Because like if you start talking about what patterns show up, hey, you keep churning salespeople like nobody's business. Is it activity metrics or leadership? Because all you're trying to do is you're just trying to take a stab in the dark to see if your assumptions are right.
Yeah.
But if you actually go and categorize those and track it, then you know not to say it again if it didn't work the last time. But this is the stuff that I'm like, people keep telling me performance goals. I need to hit 1,000 calls. But if there's no learning goals first, those performance goals are useless. They're not based on anything in reality.
Yeah. The interesting thing you said about that, like the learning piece, right? And this is why I also suggest that you stay consistent for the outreach for a period of time, because I've told you this, right? My dad always said, if you had more than one clock in the house, you never really know what time it is. If you have multiple messages in the marketplace, all you're doing is increasing guesswork, right? And you're going to get a response because you made some cutesy, snarky comment in an email, and they were like, "No, I'm sorry, it's not. I'm not." Blah blah. They answer you, and then that's the message that gets sent to the rest of the SDR team, going, "I got a response on this message," and everybody goes for it. Well, it's not proven. That was a luck, and luck is not a strategy. But so test. But if you don't, I would never more than A/B test. And also don't A/B test inside of an account. Meaning if you're calling multiple people and you are multi-threaded, don't leave everybody a different voicemail and say, okay, I'm gonna see which one returns my call. Because what you want is that message to be able to percolate inside that organization. And you want them to be able to have a communication chain of their own, talking about, hey, I got a call from this person that does this. It's that simple. Because if they can't communicate and connect the dots, then you're irrelevant, right? But if you wanted to test messaging, test it across your market, but don't do it inter-organization. Do it in separate organizations, and don't change it every time you reach out. But that's the human, psyche says that, well, Nick didn't call me back. I said something that was not interesting or intriguing to him, so I got to change it up. What can I say now? And that goes back to those, the reasons it fails when we talked last week, the urgency. We only have 2 spots left. Do you? I bet a month from now, I bet you have those 2 spots still open. Yeah. So I don't know, somewhere along the line, you posted something about, automated messaging. And I was like, yeah, but when my AI automation rejects your AI.
Oh yeah, yesterday.
Yeah. It's like, but somewhere along the line, we've just lost the human to human element.
But I think that it's so much bigger than that. People, they broke it down just to volume, like you said. But the other thing is nobody actually considers, and I think it's just because they're too busy, so they don't have time to even think, but the person you're calling, emailing, contacting, what are they responsible for?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what are they getting a call about that's on fire? After hours, middle of the night, like what is it that they're getting a call for?
Yeah.
If you can't think of anything, don't fucking call them.
Yeah, you just wasted a dial.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't know what they're responsible for, you don't know what they're being held accountable for. Therefore, you won't know what priority 1 or 2 is for them, because changing out a CRM or buying new tech or buying this or buying that isn't what they're thinking. They're trying to avoid putting out fires. They're trying to get a promotion. They're working towards something. You got to figure out what that is. Like if you're talking to a CFO about operational efficiency, why?
Yeah. What does that mean to the EBITDA, right? That's their language. What does it mean to the bottom line?
Yeah, how is capital allocation changing thanks to X, Y, and Z? Is it the market? Is it regulation? What is forcing change? Why do they care? Why is it important now versus 6 months from now? But if you guys do these mental exercises of so what, it sounds like you're being a bit of a jerk. But if you take it seriously and you take it from a curiosity standpoint, that so what can be a game changer on your outreach. Because now you're going to have conversations that resonate and are relevant. And relevancy is what's missing in most outreach.
That's an understatement.
I was like, either Jason's going to hit me with some like crazy knowledge bombs right now, or I just hit a deep one on the soapbox. I'm not sure which one it is.
That's a deep one.
But I think that's the thing. Like, why isn't it relevant? We got to ask ourselves that. Why is the bulk of what we're doing not relevant?
Because, I mean, doesn't the answer always come back? Because we don't have time to be relevant because we have to send out so many damn messages.
And my question would be back to them is who made the list? And that answers it right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part. And again, I'm not saying reducing volume is the silver bullet, because if your system is broken, reducing it only makes it worse. It will compound it. But if you can't figure out where it's falling apart, then reduce it and you'll figure out real quick. Right? But the reaction, again, the prescription to the ailment is always do more. Right? Because if we do less, this is with what we're doing now, this is our result. We have to do more because that result needs to increase versus, again, really diagnosing the problem. And
I will say there's only been one time in my career that doing more paid off, and that was disqualifying more.
Yeah.
That's the only time it has ever played out true. And I wish somebody would have pushed me to not try to make deals happen, because if you respectfully disqualify, you can always come back, always. And they trust you.
Yeah.
Because you did the kind thing of being honest.
Yeah, you didn't waste any more time. So this is interesting. Like when you call, like I've always said this about outreach, and I've always said it about sales. And my dad said it about gambling. Right? There's only two things that can happen. One's good and one's bad. Right? In gambling, you win or you lose. Right? But in sales, you either get a yes or a no. So my statement was always get to know fast, not haphazardly, not disrespectfully, but this belief that the absence of no means yes is one that causes these 6, 8, 9, 10-month sales cycle. It's why you see things in their 222 days. It's like nobody makes it or ruminates on a decision that long. Nobody. So, and give them the opportunity to say yes or no. And nobody wants to ask it because
early.
Yeah, and early. Because
even with booking a meeting, get them to say no about booking a meeting. You're like, yeah, we don't actually need a meeting right now unless I know this, this, and this. So if this isn't relevant, it'd be a waste of your time to book a meeting. I actually had a much easier time after I got them to say no early in the sales process to get a yes later on anything. Because they knew it was okay to say no to me and I would respect it.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've done a lot of this to ourselves, but it all comes back to we're not focusing on the right things.
Yes.
Right? You know, it's like, and would you go back to a doctor or take a prescription from a doctor if you walked in the door and said, here's what you need?
Yeah. Malpractice.
Yeah. It's like, no, you would never, it's, you're using the whole fist there, doc. Those are the things like you've got to have some sort of diagnosis. You've got to have symptoms. There has to be a problem before you prescribe a solution for it.
And I will say, before you nail a problem, there has to be patterns or symptoms of a problem. Because if you can't get them to agree that they see the symptoms, they'll never agree that there is a problem.
No. Nope. because
But
then
yet you booked a meeting.
yeah. But it's because they own it too, though. That's the thing. When they realize they have it, they own it. And when you own it, it's a lonely island to stand on. You're right. You have to understand if they admit that there's a problem, and that's the appetite for change you talk about.
And like what something you had said in there too is like, if you find the people that care about their job, they will talk to you and they will help.
Yeah.
Because like
Well,
you had said before, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. It feels good to be heard and understood.
a buyer who feels understood will tell you everything. They will tell you everything.
The danger is that the actual buyer, or who else do you need to go and include in? And I think this is where this can fall apart and people say it's just fluffy bullshit. Yeah, if you show people you care and you start to listen and they unpack everything for you, you do need to ask what's next, but you also need to ask who's next.
Right. Always.
And that's those next steps that's so critical, because you need to figure out, okay, now who else needs to open up? Who else needs this? What's that, like, coming of Jesus moment of like, holy crap, that's why this is happening. That's the moneymaker.
And again, that's part of research too, right? Because even if you do get to understand, or that they feel understood, it's like you want to make it easy for them to access other people. So we're always at the table with 2 or 3 other key players that we know should be involved or aware of this deal.
Yeah.
Right. And every time we're like, okay, on the next call, this is what we're going to do. Does it make sense to have your chief revenue officer, Nick, on the phone with us? Like, I'll take care of that. Take it off of their plate. Like, I'll take care of that. I'll invite Nick. I'll introduce myself. Da 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 da. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to make it easier, because if they refuse it and they remain in isolation, that's a red flag. Right? That is a red flag. That is not an opportunity that should move to the next stage. You've got work to do. Because and unless the company is a 5-person company, right? And this guy's part owner, then he probably has he can make a decision and move forward. But if they're operating in isolation, then you're asking them to do what you have failed to do, which is sell your product or service.
So we're already at the 5-minute mark for end of our show, which this is the quickest hour I think we've ever had.
It's amazing.
So my question for you is, you're a brand new SDR, or a brand new SDR, like new to the role.
Yep.
You just got a list of 1,000, and they said, go make it happen. Let's pretend that you actually are there's some onboarding and there's some ramp, but like, if you're struggling to go and make things happen, what are the 2 or 3 steps you would do right away to go and change that around?
Depends on the tools you have at your disposal. But I mean, again, and assuming we go back to the question that, list prioritization, understanding the triggers, understanding timing, understanding, there's fiscal year triggers as well, right? If a 95% of the companies you do business with are on a fiscal year trend, why are you calling them in January, right? And do you know when their fiscal year ends? There's just so much data out there now that your list can be strong before you ever pick up the phone.
Yeah, use your own data first.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one.
And find out internally, what, as you said, and this is one of the things that I did, talk to the team that supports whatever is being sold.
Yeah. Ask yourself, who would know the answer to this? Who could I go and talk to about this? Who could teach me?
Yeah. I always, when I did SDR work, and again, I blamed it mostly on my voice. but I was not very good. But that's what I did. I always went back and talked to the CS, and I talked to the number one sales rep, and was like, okay, what do you support the most? Like you said, where do you bring the most tickets in? What's the easiest solution to get in the door and that grows? What does that solution solve for? And who buys it? And then talking to the number one sales rep, I was always like, okay, who moves deals and who blocks deals? Right? Because multi-threaded is great, but if you're multi-threaded into an office of the CFO, who, better yet, this is extremely true. Like CTOs will block a lot of deals because they want the ability and the
Build, not buy.
yeah, they want the ability and the power to build it themselves, because that means budget, right? So, and that means IP, and that means all the things that come with it, right? But it's like, I would avoid that office. So multi-threaded only works if you're multi-threaded into the people that like feel the pain and aren't gonna shut it down. And then I'd look at time of year, like when do you sell the best deals, and what do those companies look like? And there's always going to be a similarity. It might not be size, might not be revenue, might not be geography. It could be persona, the person that moves, right? It could be, when do we lose deals? Who do we talk to first? I'm going to avoid that person. There's a lot of things you can look at to make your starting point much more effective.
If I don't have any data, I look at the case studies on my website.
Yeah.
Why did they sell? Were they a big deal? Were they a fast deal? Who could I go and talk to go and learn more about that specific deal? Is it in the CRM? Interesting.
One of the things that you should always ask too is, who do we fail with? Because that can strip your list down really, really quickly as well.
CTO.
Yeah. CTO. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of questions you have to ask, but again, that's part of why SDR work is so damn hard, and why it fails a lot, because
it's speed chess.
Yeah.
That's what I think. If people realize it's just speed chess, it's a different game. Strategic is chess. Every SDR is playing speed chess without the tools to do so.
Yep.
Okay. We're at time. Any parting words?
Yeah, just like I said, I think I'll restate the fact that if your buyer feels understood, they will share everything with you. Be relevant. And I think I saw a post today on LinkedIn, and it was funny. It was a rant by a growth officer or growth person inside of an organization that they called a VP of sales, and I'll shorten it, but it was like, hey, are you guys looking to grow? I'm not interested in whatever you're selling. Thanks. But you don't want to grow? I'm just not interested I'm not interested right now. Thanks. And they hung up.
I'm not interested in irrelevance.
Yeah. And so this rant was like, how could she not? What kind of growth officer? Blah, blah, blah. Just absolutely drug this person through the mud. And it's like, but that's the projection, right? That's projecting that person is doing something incorrectly and addressing things in the wrong way versus, what did I say? So always be willing to put yourself, have some introspective on, like, what did I do? How was my demeanor? What did I say? Was I honest about why I was calling? Did I ask, really dissect what you're doing and make sure that you understand how people are receiving it. I used to call and leave myself voicemails, and I would listen to them, and just would I pick up? Would I answer this guy? Would I call him back? And the first time I did it was like a 60-second. Nobody's listening to that. It's like I just kept going and I was like, okay, I got to do something better than that. But and again, Nick says this all the time, and I say it and repeat him. We're here to help, and questions, comments, Anything that you guys have, we'd love an idea for another show too. When we would take a list and diagnose it, we could take a process, a message, whatever. But we're here to help, and we want to help because this is a lonely place to be at certain times.
It's 2026. It's no longer acceptable to suffer in silence. Sales is a hard job. It's even harder when you tackle it alone. We're here to support you. Get in the comments, get in our DMs. Asking for help is a brave step, and we are here to help you. No purchase required. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the different questions we get during the week. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same place. Happy selling, everyone. And thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Talk to you soon.
Soon.
See you
Bye.
guys. Bye.